Hi, I'm Wendy from Quilt 101. We are really happy that you could join us today with this episode on quilting, making it fun and simple and catching, as we call it, the quilting fever. So let's talk about some of the simple tools that you will need to get started. I guess the first thing that you will need to realize what you have in your home is your workspace. A kitchen table works, even a kitchen counter would work. Probably ideally if you have space for your cutting mat and a sewing machine. They could be, a kitchen table and a card table, or I've used my kitchen countertops before and then use like a card table for the sewing machine. It doesn't need to be complicated, but you do need to have two spaces, mat and your machine. The floor comes in handy for laying out your quilt pieces, so you don't need a big table to lay out your quilt pieces. I've spent many times on the floor laying out my quilt pieces. So some of the tools that you are going to need. First, you are going to need a cutting mat. They come in different sizes. I suggest to you that whatever you can afford, buy the biggest. You probably want it at least 21 to 24 inches wide. This mat happens to be 36 inches long. Ideally, this is a fantastic mat. This is the only mat size I use, so it will last you with whatever your quilting, quilt making takes you. What goes along with the mat is the ruler. They come in different sizes too. There again, whatever you can afford, buy that ruler. This is probably ideally the best ruler. As you can see, it goes the length of the mat, which makes it easier for cutting larger pieces and for trimming the edges of quilts. But if you can only afford a smaller ruler, just whatever you can afford, get. Down the road, you're going to need a square quilting ruler. It's not absolutely necessary in the beginning, but you will eventually need one of these to square up blocks, which we'll talk about in another episode. Along with that comes the Rotary Cutter. It has a round blade in here, which is extremely sharp. So all of the cutters will have a way to protect the blade. And you'll see when you go out to buy them that they come in different forms. This one is probably one of the most reasonably priced, and it's very easy to use. This is what I use almost all the time. You'll need scissors. So you definitely will need a larger pair of scissors, and you will need a small pair. It could be something like this, or it could be these little sewing snips. And this is just mainly to cut little pieces of thread at your sewing machine or as you're ironing and there's little pieces of thread. Just makes it easier. Pins are very important, and either a fabric pin holder or a magnetic. I personally like magnetic because there are times when you will have pins all over, and the magnetic ones just make it super easy to pick up. As far as pins go, there's tons of choices of pins. Just whatever you like. They're decorative. Some have little butterflies. Some are just circles. I tend to like the ones that have either a little ball on the end or like a butterfly or flower, because with my older fingers, it's easier for me to grasp. So as you get sewing, you'll see that you might prefer one over the other. Marking pens. The marking pens that I tend to use the most are the ink-based ones that disappear with heat. So after you get finished marking a quilt or whatever you're working on, you simply iron it and it takes the ink right off. But there's also water-soluble ones. When you go look at your local store for marking pens, you'll see quite a few different ones. But this one is our favorite. Seam rippers. You will be ripping seams. We all rip seams. And they come in different forms also. The cheapest one you can find will work just fine. So keep it simple. If you want to get a little bit more fancy, you can find these. This one's called the Seam Fix. What's nice about this one is it has a little bit of a rubber tip, and so when you use that, you rub it against your fabric and it pulls out all the little pieces of thread, which make it really nice. If you have to do a lot of ripping, which sometimes I do. Ironing board. You should have this at home already, but an ironing board and an iron. We happen to have a cordless iron, which we really like to use, but any iron that you have, you just want to make sure that it has a high heat setting and that it has a great steaming effect with it. And the only other thing is the machine. The machines don't need to be complicated. You simply need a straight stitch, maybe a zigzag stitch, which typically you find that at all machines, but it can be just at your local store. And if you want to go visit our website, quilt101.com, that's what our website is all about. We are doing everything we can to make it a positive experience for you. So we have prepackaged kits that are all ready to go, and we're mainly gearing towards the beginner level, or those who just want a quick kit that they can make who maybe are more experienced with it. So please check us out. I think you'll like what you see, and we just want you to have a fantastic time quilting, and we want you to catch the quilting fever. Thank you so much for watching us today. We hope that it's helped you to make quilting more fun for you. Please check out our other videos and our website, quilt101.com. Bye-bye.